This is Frankie Manning's Ambassador of Lindy Hop, a memoir that is a must-have for lovers of dance, jazz, and African American history. That is by the Publishers Weekly. On the back of the page, or the back of the book, it talks about what the book is about, who Frankie Manning is, and who Cynthia R. Millman is, who helped to write this book. So we're going to go over those real quick, and then get right into the prologue. In the early days of swing dancing, Frankie Manning stood out for his moves and innovative routines. He introduced the air step in the Lindy Hop, a dance that took the US and the world by storm. In this fascinating autobiography, choreographer and Tony Award winner, Black and Blue, Frankie Manning recalls how his first years of dancing as a teenager at Harlem Savoy Ballroom led to his becoming chief choreographer and a lead dancer for Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, a group that appeared on Broadway, in Hollywood musicals, and on stages around the globe. Manning brings the swing era vividly back to life with his recollections of the crowded ballrooms and of Lindy Hoppers trying to outdo each other in spectacular performances. Frankie Manning won a 1989 Tony Award for his choreography in Black and Blue and was honored by the National Endowment for the Arts with a National Heritage Fellowship. Now in his 90s, Frankie continues to travel the world teaching the Lindy Hop. Cynthia R. Millman taught dance and performed for over 25 years. She has studied, partnered, and lectured with Frankie Manning and danced with the Big Apple Lindy Hoppers. A librarian at the Town School in Manhattan, Cynthia has contributed articles to Dance Magazine and the International Encyclopedia of Dance. Now, that was all that is on the back cover of this book. Frankie Manning, Ambassador of Lindy Hop. Let's get into this. We will be starting off from the prologue. The prologue is titled Too Stiff, and the first section is titled House Rent Parties. From the time I was about 8, my mother, who adored dancing, used to take me with her to social events in Harlem so she wouldn't have to leave me with a babysitter. We often went to house rent parties, which were a way for people to raise money to help pay their landlord. They were held right in someone's apartment, and you'd pay 25 cents to get in. Once you were inside, you'd have someone playing stride piano and blues for food and tips, pig's feet and potato salad to eat, bathtub gin for 10 cents a mug, and dancing. At first, my mother would leave me in a bedroom along with a coat so I could go to sleep, but I used to peek out through the door to watch the festivities. I was intrigued with the atmosphere. It was just so jolly, so full of life, so much fun. People would be telling jokes that I didn't understand, but I'd be laughing because everybody else was. It seemed like they were enjoying themselves so much. Folks would be chit-chatting in the bedrooms, and of course, lots of people would be congregating in the kitchen because that's where the food was. But the living room was where they did the dancing. That's what I liked best. I loved watching my mother and her friends dance because it seems like they were having such a good time out there on the crowded floor. You haven't seen slow dancing until you've been to a house rent party. When people wanted to get funky, they'd do the black bottom, the mess around and slow drags, honky tonk dances. What they did is slower music. If it was a blues number, everybody would be out there shaking butt. You'd hear someone say, "Turn the lights down low and let the party get started." Or, as Fats Waller used to say, "Put out the lights and call it the law." These were private dancers, so they didn't need much space. When they played hot music, fast music, ragtime, or Charleston-type music, if someone started to get a little wilder than everybody else, the crowd would back up and form a circle. Everybody would stand around clapping for the people in the middle who would start shining, what we called showing off. In those days, dancing could be very individual. At times, particularly at private parties, I know that I saw a lot of Charleston steps, but I don't remember exactly what everyone was doing. They were out there by themselves, so they did whatever they were in the mood for. It might be one person or a couple, but they were improvising, so they needed more room. To me, the dancing was what it was all about. It had a tremendous impact on me, but I wasn't thinking, I've got to learn this. Yet. After a couple of years, by about age 10, as the dancing became more fascinating to me, I began to venture out among the partygoers. I used to push people aside or lie down on the floor to look through the legs in order to see what was going on. I began going home and trying to move exactly like they did. Hearing the music with that rhythm and being able to move to it just got under my skin. That's when I started dancing. Too stiff. By the time I turned 12, my mother had started taking me to parties that were sponsored by her social club. In October 1926, the Jolly Flapperettes were planning a Halloween dance at the Renaissance Ballroom. My mother was on the decorating committee, and when she told me that if I helped her decorate the hall, she would let me go to the dance, I jumped at the chance. Most of those affairs took place on the weekend. On our way to decorate the ballroom, I saw some of my friends playing in the street. Now, you know how kids are. When I told them I was going to the dance tonight with my mom, they said, "Man, you ain't going nowhere. You just jiving." We spent the afternoon putting up corn stalks, pumpkins, lanterns, and automatic decorations with other club members, then went home to get ourselves ready. I got all dressed up, not in a costume, but in knickers. Long stockings, shoes, a cap, a jacket with loops for a belt, and a bow tie. I thought I looked great. I was so anxious to go that I said, "Mama, I'm ready." "Frankie, it's only 7 o'clock," she told me. "The dance isn't until 9." It seemed like I had to wait for days until my mother got herself dressed. At about 9 o'clock, we finally left for the dance. I was so sharp that I strutted by all the cats hanging around outside. Naturally, they asked, "Where are you going, Frankie?" I said, "You guys didn't believe me when I said I was going to dance tonight with my mama. That's where I'm going." The house band for the Renaissance, Vernon Andrade, I'm pretty sure, was playing, and they were a very good swinging band. People were doing different kinds of dances, mostly ballroom stuff like the foxtrot, the Peabody, and the waltz, but also the Charleston, mess around, and slow drag. My mother's club had a box in the balcony, and I was the youngest thing in the hall sitting up there with all the big folks. I was just listening to the music and watching everybody out on the floor when my mother came up and asked if I wanted to dance. I was so happy that I was bouncing along beside her as she led me by the hand onto this big ballroom floor. I put my arm around her waist, then tried doing the dances that I saw everybody else doing. I was just carrying on. As soon as the music was over, my mother grabbed me by the hand and started walking off the floor, shaking her head. When I asked her what was the matter, she said, "Frankie, you'll never be a dancer. You're too stiff."